I was following the 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 pack, all swallowed in their coats, with scarves of red tied around their throats to keep their little heads from falling in the snow. And I turn around and there you go, and Michael, you would fall and turn me white snow red as strawberries in the summertime. I was following the pack, all swallowed in their coats, with scarves of red tied around their throats to keep their little heads from falling in the snow. And I turn around and there you go, and Michael, you would fall and turn the white snow red as strawberries in the summertime. Swallowed in their coats, with scarves of red tied round their throats to keep their little heads from falling in the snow. And I turn around and there you go, and Michael, you would fall and turn the white snow red as strawberries in the summertime. Good morning, Westwinds. During this Advent season, we get to celebrate the light of the world who came down to show us what it really means to be human, to be good, and to be better versions of ourselves. So let's stand and sing together about that. And you never let me down, no matter the way I stumble down this road. And from dawn until sundown, would you hold me tightly and take away this load? Could I ever run away from the love you showed me? I feel it in my bones. If I'm falling down below, would you catch me gently and save me from these stones? When I hit this wall, you pick me up and you never let me fall. You are the light, you are the light. I'm covered in your grace for all my days. You are the light, you are the light, you are the light, and I'm covered in your grace for all my days. You never look away, even when it hurts and it presses at your soul. And when I start to fray, would you stay with me, and would you make me whole? When I hit this wall, you pick me up and you never let me fall. You are the light, you are the light. I'm covered in your grace for all my days. You are the light. I'm covered in your grace for all my days. You are the light. You are the light. I'm covered in your grace for all my days. You are the light. You are the light. You are the light. I'm covered in your grace for all my days.
Yeah, all right. You can go ahead and find a seat. My name is Pastor Corey. I am one of the pastors here, and it is so good to gather with you this morning. I love the Advent season. Did you know we are 7 days till Christmas Eve? Yeah, some people are excited. Some people are freaking out. Didn't realize it. So good. Listen, when we gather here each weekend, we like to make space in our gathering for those who would like to engage with generosity, to give financially. Every week there are people in this community who give financially to make everything we do here possible. Time with kids, gathering here, and things in the community, things like Christmas Eve at the theater, all of that, all of the ministry, all the life we get to share together is because there are folks who give weekly or monthly and share in this, in the financial part of what it means to be community, to share in generosity. If you would like to give today, we would love to invite you to do so. You can do that electronically. There's QR codes in front of the seats in front of you. There's one up here on the screen as well, if you'd like to give electronically. If you'd like to give cash or check the old-fashioned way, there are a couple canisters on your way out the door where you can drop those funds as well. This is also the season of year-end giving, and I want to just take a few minutes to ask you to consider our community. As you consider year-end gifts this year, I want to invite you to consider Westwinds and the work that we get to share in together. Specifically this year, we are trying to raise funds to replace the flooring in our kids' areas. And I am so excited to announce that we have cleared phase 1 of that this week. So we are already going to be able to start. Yeah, that's great. What that means is phase 1 was all the hospitality area. So when new families come to our community, when new families show up here today with their little ones, you think about those little ones. I've got little ones that might be nervous about going into a new space or entering a kid's area. We wanted to make sure that area is warm and hospitable and fresh. And so phase 1 means that we get to redo our hospitality area for kids. Phase 2 is where our preschools and our littles hang out. So the next phase we're in right now, phase 2, we'll be raising money towards that. We're calling this our Here and Now offering because we think our kids are not the church of the future. They're the church of here and nailed it. Wow, that was great. That was great. So if you'd like to give towards phase 2 of our Here and Now offering, you can do that again through these QR codes. Or you could just write on a check here and now. You could write kids. You could write Christmas, and we'll make sure that it goes directly towards that as well. So could we stand together? I'd like to pray for us, and then we will sing some more. God, I thank you for the opportunity to gather here this morning with other people, to move towards you with other people. All of us come from different dispositions in life today. Some of us had a great week. Some of us have had hard weeks. For some of us, this season is inviting and warm and exciting. For some of us, it's tough and difficult, even scary. So for all of us today, God, we are thankful that you invite us to move towards you. We pray these things in your name, Jesus. Amen. Let's sing some more.
I think we should have a little fun, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it. Good King Wenceslas looked out on the feast of Stephen, when the snow lay round about, deep and crisp and even. Brightly shone the moon that night, though the frost was cruel, when the poor man came in sight, gathering winter fuel. Oh, winter fuel. Bring me flesh and bring me wine, bring me pine logs hither. Thou and I will see him dine when we bear him thither. Page and monarch, forth they went together. Through the rude wind's wild lament and the bitter wind. Oh, the bitter weather. Mark my footsteps, my good page, tread thou in them boldly. Thou wilt find the winter's rage, freeze thy bloodless holy. Oh, let's go! In these master steps he trod, where the snow lay dinted, he was in the very side which the saint had printed. Therefore, Christian men, be sure, wealth or rank possessing, he who now shall bless the poor, shall yourselves find blessing. Oh, now come find your blessing.
You can have a seat.
They might not want to.
After that song, man, that was rocking. Good morning, everyone. That was a great good morning. Thank you. I like the energy. My name is Josh, and I'm one of the pastors here. Now, I've met a lot of you over the past couple of months, but I'm pretty new to the area. But I've loved getting to know you, and this church has been one of the most welcoming that I've been in, so I wasn't planning on saying that, but you just need to know that you guys are awesome, and it's great to be here and a part of what's going on at Westwinds. Have any of you ever had one of those moments where maybe you're with a friend or someone you know, you think you know them pretty well, maybe it's like someone you're engaged to or you're dating, and you spend time with their family, you meet their mom or dad or sister or brother, maybe you go to their house for the holidays and spend some time with them, and you begin to see things and you're like, now I get why you're like that. Or you're like, oh, that's where you get that from. Or maybe you're saying to yourself, how are you the only normal person in this family? Have you had those moments? Whether we like it or not, our families, where we come from, they say something about us. They have an impact on us, and they influence who we are. Over the past few weeks, we've been working through the book of Luke, looking up at the things leading up to the coming of Jesus. We're going to flip back a few pages today and dig into the book of Matthew, the first chapter, Matthew's genealogy of Jesus. Matthew, he was a guy who spent time with Jesus, one of his disciples. He followed along with him for 3 years, and then he wrote these words that we call the Gospel according to Matthew, and he opens it up with a list of names. It's Jesus' family, his genealogy, where Jesus came from. And if you've read the Bible a decent amount, or even at all, quite often we get to these lists of names, and we kind of like to skip over them, because they're like, this is boring. Name after name, so-and-so, father of so-and-so, begot so-and-so, son of this person. And you're like, who are they talking about? I don't know anybody here. Let's go to the next page. I think that the reason we tend to do that, or why it's boring for us, the names in the list, they don't mean anything to us. They're like, who the heck are these people? But for Matthew, these names, they actually held a lot of meaning. They had stories and memories and moments attached to these names. Unlike us, when the evening comes and we're just chilling at home, we can't just like watch Netflix or stream whatever, or read a book, or they would just sit around and tell stories. Stories of people that have gone before them, stories of their ancestors, stories of Abraham or Aminadab or Boaz, because that's what they did. Matthew, he's doing something really specific in these stories. Imagine you're back at that house with your friends or your engaged person-to-be or your boyfriend, girlfriend, and they had these, it's like after dinner, you've had like a good meal, and you're having dessert maybe, just talking, and they start telling stories among themselves. Like, remember that time when Uncle Paul did this thing, or when Grandpa Tom forgot to, or Aunt Margaret was like, and you're like, ha, 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 this is so funny, but you're like, I don't know who these people are. That's what this is like for us. If I told you stories of like, my dad, John, or my Uncle Phil, or my Aunt Margaret, or my Aunt Pam, you might listen to me and be nice and laugh along, but they don't mean that, these names don't mean that much to you. But for me, the names of my aunts and uncles and grandparents, they have stories attached to them. There's meaning attached. Just the mention of the name brings back memories to me. And for Matthew and the people of their day, the same thing would happen. This is Jesus' origin story. This is where he's come from. And Matthew is telling it in a very specific way. Unlike the way we tell our history, Matthew's actually more concerned with telling a story than he is like getting the facts exactly right. If you look at Matthew's genealogy and then go look at Luke's or others in the Bible, what you'll find is Matthew actually, when he goes along, he'll like skip whole generations. He'll leave people out. He'll put people in who didn't really belong there. And this feels weird to us. We're like, that's not how you do things, Matthew. I'm not sure if you know. But his goal isn't to necessarily tell us the exact history, but he wants us to remember these stories. And he's trying to communicate a bigger meaning. He has an agenda. He's trying to make a declaration about who Jesus is and where he comes from. there's like levels and layers to this list, and we're going to just like scratch the surface of a few things today. But I hope that as we talk and learn this morning, that maybe you'll go back and read some of the stories of these names that we don't know, that are unfamiliar to us. But Matthew chapter 1, verse 1 says, "This is the record of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham." He lists these names. Abraham was the father of Isaac, Isaac the father of Jacob, Jacob the father of, and he goes on and on and on. And he breaks this up into like 3 sections, and he says, this is the section from Abraham to David. And then there's a section from David to when the Israelites are conquered and deported to Babylon. And then there's a last section from Babylon, their deportation and conquering, back to Jesus Christ. With each section, I think he's trying to do a very specific thing. With Abraham, Matthew wants us to know that Jesus came to build a family. With David, he wants us to know that he came to establish a new kingdom. And with the last section, ending in Jesus Christ, he wants us to know he's come to call us back, his people back from exile. Matthew 1, verse 1 says, "This is the record of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham." Firstly, Jesus is the son of Abraham. And if we were Jewish people in a Jewish time 2,000 years ago, and let's say we're sitting around a campfire, and my son or my daughter was like, "Daddy, who is Abraham again?" I might tell them a story about, well, a long time ago, Abraham was your great, really great grandfather. And God came to him and made him a promise. And he said, "I'm going to call you to a new nation. And I know you're really old, but you're going to have lots and lots of babies. You're going to have a huge family. And I'm going to bless that family. And I'm going to bless that family to bless the entire world through you." And I'd say, you know what? That family, that's our family. And God's called us to be his own family. When I was a kid, my cousin Derek and I, we had these matching t-shirts. They weren't cool, but we thought they were cool because they were Christian, like Bible t-shirts. We were these nerds, I guess. But the shirt said "Heroes of the Bible" across the top. And it had all these caricatures of these Bible characters. It had like Samson on there, and he's like just like this jacked version of Samson. Or there's Gideon with a sweet sword, and like Moses just with the 2 tablets. And we play these games where my cousin and I would act out, like pick a character and pretend to be them in imagination time. We're like 12, 13 years old. And we thought this was a fun thing to do, I guess. That's what nerdy Christian kids did back when there was no TV or tablets to look at. And so we'd act out these characters, these heroes of the Bible. And looking back now, I wish I had that shirt, actually. I did Google it this week, try and find the shirt somewhere, but I'm sure it's gone into the landfills around the world. But I looked at this shirt, and I think I looked at the Bible characters the same way for a long time, as if all these characters were like heroes of the Bible. This family was people I should emulate. And while a lot of the characters, they did some really great things, a lot of them were heroic at some moments. At the same time, a lot of the characters, they had some questionable moments too. Some of them had some really low moments. And most of the characters in this genealogy aren't necessarily black or white. They're like this gray area where they have high and low moments. And they're kind of a lot like us, who have lived lives that are a little more gray than they are black and white. If you go back and read the stories of these names, you'll find that this family is a mixture. There's actual family, but then there's like these outsiders, these foreigners that get included. There's people that do good things, but there's people that also are liars and cheats, and they worship bad things, or they're prostitutes, or they're womanizers. And we look at this list, and I don't think that Matthew's necessarily affirming the lives of these people. But what I think he wants to do is to let us know that even people who have done horrible things or been stuck in horrible situations can still be redeemed, can still be restored, are still welcome, and still matter as part of Jesus' family in the story. If you look at the list, people like Abraham, he did great things, but at the same time, he got tired of waiting for God's promise to come to fruition, and he makes a servant girl come to him to try and have a kid with them. Jacob, he's like the biggest worm of worms. He deceives his father. He tricks his brother. He steals his birthright and his inheritance. David, he's one of the great kings of Israel, and politically, he's amazing. But ethically, he does some messed up things. David, he forces Bathsheba to come to him, and we don't talk about it this way often, but he rapes Bathsheba and then kills her husband to try and cover it up. A lot of the kings in the list, they practice cultic worship, things that would disgust us today, some of the things that they did. But despite their struggles, their imperfections, they still make this list somehow. They still are included in this genealogy. And knowing that Matthew leaves some people out, we have to assume he wanted them in there intentionally. I love that people like Tamar or Rahab or Bathsheba make this list because they shouldn't belong in this list. For the people of the time, women had no value. Women were basically property. But Matthew says, I know you were forced to do unthinkable things. You had unthinkable things done to you, but you're not glossed over, you're not forgotten, you're not buried in history. In fact, you get your name listed next to kings. Matthew wants us to know that Jesus is restoring each of us to connection and family with each other. If you're wondering, why would Matthew do this? Why would he push against the cultural norms of the day? Why would he include all these people? I think it's because he spent time with Jesus. As we look at Jesus' life, Jesus hung out with the people on the outside, the poor, the rejected, the neglected, the sinners, the tax collectors, the prostitutes, the people that didn't cut it, didn't fit in, weren't qualified. And Matthew, spending time with Jesus, learns who gets included and who matters, who belongs or has a place in his family. Jesus reshapes the way we see those around us. He reshapes who gets included. And if you feel like you're on the outside today, if you feel like you're not good enough, if you've done too many things, if you're too poor, or if you're too rich, or if you're too lonely or too greedy, if you've had too many sexual partners, if you're worried if you'll ever have any sexual partner, if you're too afraid, or you're too prideful, Jesus' story is that people who are messed up still get included in his family. We're still welcome to be part of what he's doing. Matthew 1 says, this is the record of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. David was a central figure in Jewish history. He was kind of like the pinnacle of the Israelites. They'd come from this terrible place where they'd been enslaved in Egypt, and they come out and they finally established their own kingdom in this land. They built a capital city, and they're doing well financially. They're building an army. Things look like they're doing really well. And so David, he represents this time for the Jews. And God comes to David and makes him a promise, and he says, David, as long as your people will follow me, someone from your line will never cease to sit on the throne of Israel. And they don't do that. They do the exact opposite. And things get really bad for the Israelites. In fact, their kingdom splits in two, there's a revolt, and then the northern kingdom, they actually fall to the Assyrian Empire. And the southern kingdom, Judah, watches this happen. They don't change. And then Judah, they're watching this empire, the Babylonians, come for them. In fact, the Babylonians are on their doorstep, and their demise is inevitable. There's no chance of surviving. And then God comes to a prophet, Jeremiah, and he says this, Jeremiah 33, I, your God, Yahweh, the Lord, affirm, the time will certainly come when I'll fulfill my gracious promise concerning the nations of Israel and Judah. In those days and at that time, I'll raise up for them a righteous descendant of David. He'll do what is right or just and right in the land. Under his rule, Judah will enjoy safety, and Jerusalem will live in security. At that time, Jerusalem will be called, the Lord has provided us with justice, for I, the Lord, promise. David will never lack a successor to occupy the throne over the nation of Israel. And then they come under siege, and they're deported and taken to Babylon. And they live under oppression or occupation for 600 years. The Babylonians, and the Persians, and the Greeks, and the Romans. But then Matthew comes along and says, finally, someone else has come. Another son of David is here. And he's come to establish a new kingdom. But just like his family looked different than people expected, so did his kingdom. Matthew, in the 4th chapter of his book, says this. He says, Jesus went around Galilee, teaching their synagogues, proclaiming the gospel, the good news of the kingdom, healing every disease and sickness among the people. It had been a long time since kingdoms were good news for the Jews. The kingdoms they knew were oppressive. They overpowered people. They overtaxed people. They beat them down and took what they had. In contrast, Matthew wants us to know the kingdom that Jesus is bringing is a good news kingdom. He tells these stories. He tells these quotes from Jesus. And he's like, in this kingdom, blessed are the meek. Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are the merciful. And I don't think he's trying to say, like, if you work hard enough, or if you're meek enough or merciful enough, you get to be included in this kingdom. I think what he's saying is that in my kingdom, things function differently. In my kingdom, unlike the kingdoms out there, when you're meek, you don't get trampled on. The meek inherit the earth. When you're merciful, you don't get taken advantage of. You get shown mercy back to you. In my kingdom, the peacemakers are the fortunate ones. The poor in spirit, they're the fortunate ones. He turns the idea of a kingdom on its head. This kingdom looks different. It flips the kingdoms of our world upside down. Matthew 1 says, this is the record of the genealogy of Jesus Christ, the son of David, the son of Abraham. This section of David ends. Like I mentioned, the Jewish people live in exile for many, many years. And when it comes to Jesus' time, they've returned back to their land. They're back in Israel, but they're under Roman occupation. They've come home, but their home isn't like it's supposed to be. The Romans occupy their holy city of Jerusalem. Some of their people are still scattered across the world. They're separated from their connection and community, and they're separated from God. Do you ever feel like there's moments in life where, yeah, things should be good. I know that, like, we're so blessed and fortunate, but things still feel like they aren't quite right. Like, we're home, but we're not quite home yet. There's good things happening around. Not everything makes sense. Maybe you're asking yourself, like, why do I still have these financial struggles? Why do I still miss that person? Why do I still have so many questions? Why do I still feel so alone? Like, I know that things are going to get better. I know that we're very fortunate. I know that I have God in my life, but I'm still like this work in progress. That I'm here, but I'm not quite here yet. We're living in this gray period, this slash, this in between, this work in progress already, not yet. But Jesus shows up at the end of this list. He wants to call his people out of this exile that they're living in, move towards wholeness and redemption, calling us into a family not defined by bloodlines or defined by some list. He's calling us into a kingdom that looks different than the ones around us. He's calling us back into connection with each other, back into community, and away from the things that separate us from each other and separate us from God. It's been my experience that life will never be perfect, that we still live in this bit of exile as we wait for things to be set right, for that justice to come. But one of the good pieces of good news of Christmas is that even though we're in this in-between and things are still working out, he's come to walk with us and be with us in the middle of this. He's come to walk with his people. God is not like the end of the road somewhere, like saying, man, I hope they make it. He's come to dwell among his people. Matthew says in this first chapter, it says, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary as your wife, because the child conceived within her is from the Holy Spirit. It says, look, the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son. We'll name him Emmanuel, which means God with us. This person, Jesus, he's the culmination of the entire history. He's come to be a new Abraham, to be a new David, to establish and build a new family and build a new kingdom. He's given up all of his power and privilege to dwell among us and walk with us as we work through the slash that we're living in. For Jesus, his life was turned upside, or for Matthew, his life was turned upside down by being with Jesus. He saw the world completely differently after 3 years with him. And I would imagine that if we said, Matthew, on the first day of meeting Jesus, write a genealogy. And then Matthew, on the last day of meeting Jesus, write a genealogy. My guess is they would look very different, because being with Jesus changed the way he saw those around him, who he believed were included. I see things really linearly most of the time. I like to write things out or talk things out with people. But when I was working through this chapter and these verses, I had this picture come to my brain that doesn't usually happen to me, but it just kept coming up as I was thinking through this. And it's really random and kind of strange, but I had this picture of a street at the end of the world. And people are locked away in their homes. And there was a caller, or a town crier, and he's walking down the middle of this street. And he's yelling, calling people out of their homes, saying, Abraham, come out, it's safe, it's okay. David, come on out. Bathsheba, come out. Rahab, come out. Josh, come out. Each of us, come on out. It's safe, it's okay. People are streaming out of their houses, walking forward toward Jesus. And there's hope at the end of this road. We're all walking this road together. Come be part of this family. Come be part of this kingdom. I know things are always a work in progress, but I believe God's calling us toward hope, towards a time when justice will reign and things will be set right, and he's walking with us in the middle of it all.
Come thou long expected Jesus, born to set thy people free. From our fears and sins release us, let us find our rest in thee. Israel's strength and consolation, hope of all the saints thou art, dear desire of every nation, joy of every longing heart. Born thy people to deliver, born a child and yet a king, born to reign in us forever. Now thy gracious kingdom bring, by thine own eternal Spirit, rule in all our hearts alone. By thine all-sufficient merit, raise us to thy glorious throne. Come thou long expected Jesus. Come thou long expected Jesus. That was pretty good. Good job. All right. Why don't we stand and sing this last song together, all right? All the poor and powerless, and all the lost and lonely, and all the thieves will come confess, and know that you are holy, will know that you are holy. And oh, we'll sing out hallelujah, and we will cry out hallelujah.
And oh, the hearts who are content, and all who feel unworthy, and all who hurt with nothing left, will know that you are holy, and all will sing out hallelujah, and we will cry out hallelujah, and all will sing out hallelujah, and we will cry out hallelujah. Shout it, go on and scream it from the mountains. Go on and tell it to the masses that He is God. Guess I'm great. Shout it, go on and scream it from the mountains. Go on and tell it to the masses that He is God. Shout it, go on and scream it from the mountains. Go on and tell it to the masses that He is God. Shout it, go on and scream it from the mountains. Go on and tell it to the masses that He is God. And we will sing out hallelujah. We will cry out hallelujah. We will sing out hallelujah, God. Shout it, go on and scream it from the mountains. Go on and tell it to the masses that He is God.
Yeah. You can go ahead and just grab a seat. This is why we make a big deal of Christmas. That on Christmas Eve, we're going to start our gatherings here. We're going to sing carols together and eat cookies together and have a kind of like a family gathering here in the morning on Christmas Eve. But then Christmas Eve in the evening, we're going downtown. We're going to Michigan Theater, and this is why. We want to invite people into this new family, new ways of thinking about kingdom, new kinds of people get to belong in God's family that maybe don't belong other places. One Christmas Eve years ago, I had a relationship with this bar in town. Okay, this story's going somewhere, I promise. And I got talking to the owner of the bar, and I said, hey, like, a lot of your clientele, they have nowhere to be on Christmas Eve. What if I did like a church service on Christmas Eve? We called it midnight mass at the bar. And it was from 11 to 12 on Christmas Eve, and at like 10:55, there was like 2 people there. And I was like, oh, I can't say that word, darn. And 11 o'clock, the bar began to fill up, and the bar packed out for an hour. And I remember going table to table after that night at midnight, and people being like, I had nowhere to be tonight. I had no family to be. I was going to be alone tonight. And I just think the power of inviting someone to something like Christmas Eve at the theater. We're going to gather together, and we're going to declare that if you have no one to be with, you can be with us. That we want to become the kind of people that when we meet Jesus, we would describe Jesus' family one way, but then 3 years later with Jesus, we would describe Jesus' family another way. That whoever you are, we want you to come. And so unashamedly, as you walk out tonight, we're going to hand you some cards that is like a promo for Christmas Eve at the theater. You already know what time it's at and where it's at, so why are we giving you that card? To give to somebody else. Okay, we're getting there. Great. And then as you walk around the lobby today, there's actually some posters around. So if you have like a break room, or you know of like a public board somewhere where you can post things, maybe you own a business or manage a business, there's 70 posters that we want to see put throughout our community over the course of this week. And we think this crew can help get them out there. So maybe if you have a spot in mind, don't take one unless you have a spot in mind. If you take a poster, you are committing to putting it up somewhere, all right? And it can't be in your living room. That does not count, all right? So we want to encourage you to invite people. So again, Christmas Eve, we're going to start here with carols and cookies, and then we are going to move into the neighborhood, mimic the movement of Jesus, and have Christmas Eve at the theater at 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. I hope you will shout it from the mountaintops, invite everyone that you know and care about, your neighbors, your friends, your families. It's going to be a wonderful time together. All right? All right. Let's crank the Christmas music. You are dismissed.